Welcome back. So now we're going to talk about some different schemes to provide public-private support. Okay? So you've got to remember that with any of these clusters and any of these countrywide initiatives, what they're trying to do is encourage a brand, right? And Silicon Valley really paved the way for it, right? Other countries have tried to start their own Silicon Valleys, right? You think of like Skolkovo Technology Park outside Moscow. They wanted to have that be kind of a cluster, the Russian Silicon Valley, right? And they tried to provide different kinds of activities to strengthen the connectedness of the ecosystem. A lot of that usually comes from like subsidies normally provided to a university, right? So in Silicon Valley you got UC Berkeley and Stanford. If you're looking at Skolkovo Higher School of Economics as a campus there, and there's also a Skolkovo Management School, right? And then of course the public entities will provide incubators and incubator support. They may provide fairs. You know, Silicon Valley has tech fairs all the time. So does Skolkovo. Things like that. Then there's normally indirect and direct funding and activities. Direct funding, which is what we'll talk about in just a couple minutes, is basically just giving money to somebody. It's a direct loan, it's a direct grant, it's direct funding support. Indirect funding activities can be things like tax relief, it can be subsidies, and other kinds of assistance like providing the use of incubators. Okay. And then we've got Startup Europe is one of the largest European initiatives, and that's funded by the European Commission, and it focuses on seed and startup initiatives. And the whole idea is that they provide pitch competitions, they hook up small entrepreneurs with investors, they provide that networking for you, and then they also tried to hook local businesses up with international businesses. So they've tried to get European businesses hooked up with businesses in India, China, Russia, Africa, etc. And the good part about it is, these businesses have grown so much, and it's been such a successful program that Startup Europe is actually now financially self-sustaining. It's not just, a charity from a governmental perspective. So this has actually been a pretty financially lucrative program. Now you're probably thinking, what are some country examples? Well, I just alluded to Skolkovo Technology Park in Russia, right, where they provide the support activities. Spain, although they don't exactly have a true federal policy in Spain, they do offer a lot of different programs kind of throughout the country. Now they provide what we call non-refundable grants. Classically, that's, you just get money and you don't have to pay it back, and the idea is that you get some sort of a startup plan. They also provide co-investment with private investors. So co-investment basically means, the government recognizes it doesn't know much about business. Okay, that's already a revolution that government officials will admit that. So they say, well, we'll tell you what, if you find a private investor for what you're doing, we'll provide some sort of a match for what the private money has come through. So if a private investor thinks that your technology idea is pretty good and you're a reputable private investor, then the government will say, okay, you've invested $250,000 of your own money in this, it must be pretty good. We'll match that with another $250,000 so that the entrepreneur actually gets a little bit more. And of course it can also be used to encourage private investors to invest, because again, if more money goes into that business, then hopefully it has a greater chance of success. At least that's the hope. There's also grants to hire staff in Spain. So if you need especially like technology type people, there are grants available so that you can hire those people to do that work for you. Now you're probably thinking, like, why exactly is that? You've got to remember, a lot of countries in Europe have very high youth unemployment. So, young people can learn technology and programming skills, and then the government can give you those inducements to hire them. It gets them off of public assistance, it gives them hope, it gives them dignity, and it gives them a chance at a career with some sort of a growing company. That's why. Now, a program that's also available in Germany that Spain offers is basically grants for business plans. Okay? So basically, if you can write a business plan and it's convincing, the government will give you a grant to write that business. Now, it's not like you just write the plan and then they accept it right away. Of course, there's a revision process and a consulting process that goes with it, but if you overcome some of these hurdles, they'll give you the grant. And the idea is if the grant is enough, maybe you need to buy a piece of equipment or a piece of property, that that can be the start of a long-term sustaining business, and hopefully, pardon me, with the new opportunities you create, with the people you hire, with the taxes you pay, then hopefully that grant will somehow be paid back through tax revenue. Or if nothing else, getting people off public assistance. There's also Neotech, which gives assistance to early tech startups. So these are some examples of programs that Spain has. The UK, they have Seed Enterprise Investment Scheme and Enterprise Investment Scheme, and the idea is to get people, private citizens in the United Kingdom, the encouragement to invest in new startups. So they'll give tax relief to investors who purchase shares in small, high-risk enterprises, in the range of 30 to 50% tax relief, as long as those investors hold those funds for up to 3 years. Or for at least 3 years, I should say. So in other words, let's say you spend $100,000 on an investment in a new company, you hold that for 3 years, and maybe your investment doubles. So instead of being taxed on the full $100,000 that you made, you'd get a tax break on that. And that's the incentive. Okay. Other programs in France exist, for example, where if you know an entrepreneur, you can make that entrepreneur a loan. A bank will underwrite that loan for you. And then usually, I think it was the first 5 years of the loan repayment, the interest was tax-free. So the idea is just to get, overcome that barrier, that major barrier to starting a business, which is normally financing, and the government is stepping in to help with that. So in our next video, we'll talk about some other different kinds of sources of public funding. And I hope you enjoyed this video. And as always, give me a like, that's a thumbs up. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and comment down below. And here's my question for my YouTube audience. In your country, can you think of any schemes that are particularly interesting to supporting an entrepreneurial ecosystem? I'll see you in the next video.